All right, let's jump into this one. It's a weekend wrap now. Where we at? 1:30 on the Sunday, so it's the 15th. This will probably be the last sort of weekend wrap for the year because I'm actually off to the States today. So yeah, I thought I'd sort of bash this out pretty quickly. Probably won't go too in depth on any sort of news or fundamental sides of things, but at least have a little look at the charts and what we can kind of expect this week. Excuse me. We do have FOMC. That's a big one coming up this week. We've also got BOJ coming out, which expectations have pretty much dulled to the idea that they were going to be cutting. I did see some sort of reference to partly the reason that we got this sort of drive up on DXY this week. Obviously, a number of sort of currencies and that sort of fell on data and that sort of through the week, well, USD crosses anyway. But you can see it's obviously sort of like been just sort of grinding higher ever since we had that NFP, which, the numbers were a little bit stronger, but obviously the initial reaction was happy to sort of sell it off down here, took out all these lows. This is going back to, long-term sort of price level that we've got way back. And then it's just really hasn't looked back since. As you can see, it's pretty much just grinding up through here, and it's starting to define a pretty decent looking little channel, which means, when we see the channel, we can see sort of how we're going to sort of trade it once we break it. So obviously, first little dip was we saw a little bit of a drop down on the lower time frames come on the lower time frames. I think it was this one here coming into sort of Friday's close and that, and so we're starting to wedge up here, grind it up through this incredible price action over I can't remember what news was that we had on the Thursday night. Maybe ECB or so it could have been. I can't remember exactly that, but I mean, look at this, just up down. This is just chopping everybody out, and then obviously just up, and then just grinding through here. It did make a couple of nice little levels, but again, look at these little tricks that it's playing down here. Like this is obviously a nice little break down here. This is an area in which you could have said this would be your support. They did a nice little close underneath, and then rides it back up the top over there, and obviously into the end of the week. Sort of a little bit of a sort of rolling over from this last push up, but that's in a short term. And yes, it does look like it wants to roll over, probably sort of come back down, visit these levels. This will be your first level that you're wanting to break, not this little fake out sort of little level that we had there, but actually the lows of that. Because if we have a look on the higher time frame, that's the bottom of your wick just down here. That if you come down to this, you're going to be sort of coming sort of out of this immediate channel and obviously sort of starting to move back down. I really think 106.35 is the level that we've seen most consistent recently. This is a level that goes back to the sort of the body fills of way back start of the year, well, more or less April, so a few months ago now. So certainly it has got some sort of historical sort of value at that level. We have seen it sort of play its part as sort of resistance through here, resistance support, blah, blah, blah. And obviously more so this last week as well. It's really started to shore this up as well. So this is your first little point of call underneath 106.70. 106.35, I think, is a good chance that we might kind of start to see a little bit of a sort of move down here. Of course, nothing's confirmed till you get underneath these wicks from NFP 105.40. I think once you're down there, then you can officially put this in as another run. So you got your high, you got your second high, and we start to move down. If this were to be the case, this is almost like a little bit of a channel that it could be forming through here. Didn't perfectly touch this, so it's not any, I mean, and that'd only be its second touch, so it wouldn't even be a sort of confirmed downside, but it would kind of line up with a bit of symmetry, and just sort of means you can work out where you might see some little rally attempts and bounces once this thing does sort of cool down. So expectation this week is a 25 base point cut from FOMC, well, from the Fed on the FOMC. So if we do get this, look, it's hard to sort of say. I mean, typical sort of response would be yes, weaker kind of currency. Couple of thoughts of this. I was actually talking with a mate last night, going over some charts and that, and this little point just down here was, I was telling him that this point down here was the 50 base point cut, and that's the actual cut. This is pricing in the cut, you know what I mean? So obviously sort of like, pricing in things and that is obviously somewhat a little bit stronger and more impactful than the actual cut itself. And it's just, we've seen a one-way trade since that. It's basically moved up through here. I think this period up to here is just before the um, what's it called, elections. That was really your 50 base point grind, just to sort of really sort of short squeeze people. We had a bit of a pullback there as everybody was saying, oh, but maybe Carmela's a chance. No, she wasn't. And obviously, this is your Trump trade. Bang, bang, bang. We're moving up the top over here. The reason I'm referencing that at the moment is because if pricing in a cut is the case, well, they certainly haven't been doing it this time. It's moving up, coming into the idea that they're going to see a 25 base point cut. So I think if you do see the 25 base point cut, you might actually see somewhat of a move off that this time. Given that sort of, you can't say any of it's really sort of priced in. It's still sitting right up the top over here. So they're the three levels that we kind of want to look for. So obviously this little first one just here, we want to sort of get down underneath this level here. And then the big one will be over here, which is obviously in line with these wicks down the bottom over here. So they're the three levels you want to see sort of really be taken out to say that we may have actually found a bit of a top. I did also sort of point out this is that if we look back, put on a higher time frame, it's probably a bit easier to see. This is the period that we had at the end of last year. After a similar sort of situation in the sense that, big strong support, broke down here, is coming down really strong. I dipped underneath 100, big round number, and it just went off. And this was a short squeeze. This was a grind, and it just didn't let anybody off. And it just kept moving up and up and up and up and up. If we have a look at the top up over here, very similar in the sense that it's coming down, then all of a sudden fires back up, coming down, fires back up, come down, rocks up, and this is probably where you could really say that it fully committed to the downside of it all. But the point is, this area here, the top section of it all, that was 28, was that 38 days. The bottom section, well, really from sort of, the peak of this top area to where you can kind of say that this candle here was the confirmation that we're definitely going down. This was 49 days. Where we're at the moment is at 29 days. So, it's not unseen that we sort of have this, it's coming down, fires back up, coming down, grind, and sort of just move. I mean, this was just a one-way trade this week. I mean, there was no real sort of sense to it at all. It was just like, oh, yep, rejected here. It's a nice little support area, and it just moved up to the top over here. If the other side of the coin is if they don't cut, this is the thing that you got to be also considering, because if they hold, we could sort of be seeing, at least stay elevated, potentially even put in a new high. I do think that we are near the top. I think that this will eventually roll over, but if they hold, you're going to see a knee-jerk reaction up here. That's going to smash, smash your Aussie, smash probably euros. I don't trade the euro, but like pound, everything. Everything's going to get whacked. If the BOJ cuts, if the BOJ hikes, I would say that's priced in. Let me start this again. If the BOJ does not hike, so if they hold, I would say this is kind of somewhat already priced in, maybe a little bit of a blow off top. If they do hike, that's going to be another reason that we're going to be seeing some downward pressure on DXY. So it's going to be quite a hectic sort of week for it all. Flip across, go to Aussie, and continues to be bashed. Held this sort of area into the close. You've got just underneath this rising support. I don't like the rejection from the underside of it, but it's not the end of the world. Horizontal is holding, and this technical sort of little bit of a wedge lower sort of support down here. Not as super fan with this, but it does provide and has sort of been holding. So I think it's really in a wait and see moment. I think these two wicks are going to be what determine our direction. You go underneath 63.30. I think you're probably looking to come down to the bottom side of this channel. You're looking at maybe 62.60s, 62.50 and change. If you move to the top side here, well, that takes you not only with a higher high above this wick, but it'll also take you out of this falling channel, which is now turned into a wedge with still on a technical negative divergence. These kind of bottoms here as well, where it goes down and then up and then down. This is very typical. It would have been nice to get a bullish close on this for a bit more of a confirmation of a sort of actual reversal upside move, because obviously, being still smacked into the close, it did hold the level, but certainly not super strong or anything like that. But again, if you tip this up just to see it, this is the kind of thing you're looking at up here. And it does look like a little bit of a hanging man. So obviously same thing, just different direction with it all. actually, whoop, go back onto the normal views there. Sorry, 2 seconds. And back. Um, yeah, so I think sort of certainly it's very much in danger. If this breaks down here, well, you're just going to see this RSI shoot down to the bottom, and I'd say, yeah, you're looking for probably almost maybe another 100 points to the downside. It just really has been such an incredible sell-off down here, and it just has not really, except for that sort of little sort of pump after the election, it's just been sell city for this kind of thing for the Aussie. Move along, silver. Silver sort of, it's a bit of a tricky one at the moment. Hit resistance where we've seen it a lot of times recently, moving up over here. That double bottom tried to go for this measured move up at the top over here, but obviously whack, whack, and metals actually got pulverized. It was a very odd week with metals. We saw those sort of like weird, um, what's it called, weird spreads, sort of massive spreads. I call it weird, but it was massive spreads come through sort of midweek. We saw $16 drop off in gold in 1 minute at one stage, and this is right up around the top over here. So in future, precursor for what potentially could be the sell down here. If we maybe drag this, not really, I can't really justifiably give it anything down here. Look, all it can do is if it rallies, well, we're going to see an explosion through to the top. Though I think we may be back into obviously this little zone through here, this little range that we were in. If we see this continue to grind sideways, the danger's obviously still to the downside there. But yeah, metals certainly slapped hard on the nose through there. Gold, we saw a very similar. Hit that price target. And then boom, sold off and just kept going down, 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 down. Gave back a lot of that move through here. So again, same, back into its little range. Not really too much you can give this. I thought maybe the top side of here would have held, or the top side of the range would have held. Didn't do it, and obviously closed quite bearish coming through there. Very oversold. It could just be a little bit of a shakeout, deep pullback at the moment. But really, you got to be considering the bottom side of this range over here to be like, okay, we've hit our price target. Now let's move back down and obviously sort of, this 2620s area is going to be very vital for it all. Copper, same sort of deal, was moving up nicely. Got very close to that sort of price target. Well, not price target necessarily, but where we kind of expected it to be. Obviously, that strong support area. It actually took out this little wick area down here and used that as its rejection zone. So it got there very close, but not quite to push through to that 435 round number. Same sort of deal, gave up its falling, sort of rising support and back down into its range over here. These things really need to they need to sort of show that this is just a shakeout and then a move back forward over here. Otherwise, very much, as you can see, silver, metal, gold pressure is very much on the downside through there. DXY selling off could be the one that sort of gets these things back up, but certainly it's not in any sort of mode to be breaking out massively at the moment. I think as long as it can stay above this little area here, and then obviously the bottom range here, this is your death zone over here. If we get down underneath here, this is where copper's really going to be in trouble, and this is also obviously going to come in the same time as direction. That's really going to come in the same time as Aussie getting smacked as well. And finally, just finish off with China. It's going to be a super quick one actually. So I normally goes back on for about sort of 40 minutes, but it's about 30 minutes. I actually got to leave. But look, we are still testing underside of this sort of rising support. Fixings are still coming in very strong. So, there's a lot of sort of back and forth news with China at the moment. Everybody sort of seems to be going, oh, look, well, actually not everybody. So China seems to be going, yes, actually, look, we're fixing things up and there's more stimulus coming and we're going to sort of bounce back. Market believes it for a second, then doesn't believe it. But the fact that their fixings are still down here means they're not letting it run away. Well, not yet, at least. So each day, check the fixings, see how strong they are. Once we see the fixings move up here, that gives more leeway for the currency to move from that 2% band from their fixing. At the moment, it's very much capped around this zone over here. So I think sort of underneath this breakdown wicks, yes, you've got a little bit of support through here, but I think it's hard actually, yeah, because you do have that support through here. It's a long way off, but I think that's going to be your confirmation. You really need this to sort of pick up, and this could come at the same time as DXY selling off. We are seeing it obviously roll over. This is on the 4-hour with the RSI coming into this resistance area. That little top up there was a big high time frame going way back resistance. Resistance area. So I think sort of if this can start to roll through here, Yeah, that would be its best bet. But really, at the moment, obviously, still very elevated. It's really up in the top part of this whole sort of move. This move comes from way down here as well, of course. But the fact that we're underneath this support, I think, is going to have to eventually play out. All right, look, that's pretty much it for me. Just a little fire, quick one. See how it goes this week and that. I think, yeah, it's going to be a crazy sort of end of the year. I mean, DXY got smashed into the end of the year last year. Let's see if it happens again this year. All right, that's it from me.